In the absence of the ordinary, soul work for times of uncertainty, essays on grief, change, and sacred transitions by Francis Weller, narrated by Francis Weller, published by North Atlantic Books. To the anima mundi, the soul of the world. The world and the gods are dead or alive according to the condition of our souls. James Hillman. Introduction. In the absence of the ordinary. Day by day we shape a life, sometimes rather aimlessly, and at other times with deliberation and intention. The more we pay attention, the more we notice the many ordinary moments that add texture and meaning to our lives. Greeting a friend on the street, a shared meal, a quiet walk in the woods, going to the market or gazing at the night sky. Nothing special, simply the ordinary rounds of coming and going, connection and engagement. We depend upon these gestures to sustain the currency of belonging. These days, however, the felt sense of continuity and participation in our day-to-day world has been radically altered. When the pandemic emerged in 2020, the experience of the familiar was eclipsed as much of the world came to an abrupt stop. In addition, the growing impact of climate disruption, cultural fragmentation, regional conflicts, and economic uncertainty has crashed into our psychic lives, adding to the feeling that we are not living in ordinary times. We can no longer divide the world out there from the world in here. It is becoming increasingly clear that our lives are completely entangled with the living fabric of the world. How could they not be? In truth, we have entered a prolonged season of descent that has taken us down into a different geography. It is a time of gravity and extremes as we witness the hottest temperatures on record, inflamed political discourse, the fraying of social bonds, and the emerging reality of widespread species extinction. In the imagery of myth and fairy tales, we have left the ordinary world and have entered the underworld, a sightless terrain that is shadowy and strange. The underworld is a place of dream and imagination, of gestation and mystery, of uncertainty and silence. This move into the underworld has left our sense of bearing dislodged. We don't fully know where we are at this moment in our shared story. We must learn to get quiet and still. We must develop our capacity to see what Zen teacher and author Susan Murphy calls the dark adapted eye. In this shadowed terrain, we encounter a landscape familiar to soul: loss, grief, death, uncertainty, vulnerability, and fear. We have, in the old language of alchemy, crossed into the negredo, the blackening. The alchemists describe this time as a season of decay, of shedding and endings, of falling apart and undoing. It is not difficult to see these are the conditions of our world. This is not a time of rising and growth. It is not a time of confidence and ease. No, we are hunkered down, down being the operative word. From the perspective of soul, down is holy ground. Collectively, we are not familiar with dissent as something valued and essential, and most assuredly not something we consider holy. Most of us live in an ascension culture. We love things rising up, 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 always up. We value success and strength, power and prowess. When things begin to go down, we can feel panic, uncertainty, and even dread. How can we meet these unpredictable times with a sense of courage and faith? Courage to keep our hearts open to face the world as it is, and faith that something meaningful lingers in the descent. How can we, once again, come to see the holiness that dwells in the darkness? To remember the sacredness in the dark, it is important that we become fluent in the manners and ways of soul. By soul, I am referring more to a way of seeing than to some metaphysical reality. I hold soul from an archetypal perspective, following in the long lineage that flows through James Hillman and Carl Jung, down through the poetic traditions, an animist sensibility, and into indigenous mind. Soul draws us downward into the geography of vulnerability, tenderness, loss, intimacy, and death. It keeps us close to longing, beauty, ritual, outrage, and the forest of the imagination. Soul circulates through the terrain of wounds and suffering, close to the broken heart, keeping us near to what is found on the margins, both internally and culturally. Soul is both deeply interior, offering us a sense of who we are most authentically, and simultaneously communal at the same time. Soul navigates the twining trail between sovereignty and intimacy. To know soul is to feel our wild entanglement with all things, revealing an ongoing relationship with the anima mundi, the soul of the world. As we descend ever farther into the collective unknown, into the underworld, we are called to remember the disciplines of soul that may enable us to navigate through what I have come to call the long dark. Primary among these disciplines is the practice of deep listening, which acknowledges the wisdom in others and in the dreaming earth. When we listen deeply, we begin to uncover what wants to be brought into awareness. We become receptive and permeable to sources of wisdom that lie beyond the purely human. Listening is the art of reverence. The Inuit, living north of the Arctic Circle, have a word in their language, kartsaluni, which translates, sitting together in the darkness, waiting for something to happen or burst forth. This expectant attitude is rich with deep listening, aching to hear the song that will provide for the village. A second discipline that is essential for these times is restraint. Restraint offers a breath, a pause, a moment of reflection, which allows things to be revealed. Restraint enables something to ripen before we move into action. Additionally, humility honors our mutuality and brings us close to the ground, a gesture that keeps us aware of our entanglement with the living world. A further discipline we need to develop is our capacity to embrace not knowing. Not knowing reminds us that we live in mystery, an ever-unfolding, unshaped moment. When we drop into the space of not knowing, we are able to suspend our contrived expectations we so readily rely upon. We become susceptible to mystery, to revelation. We do not know what is going to happen, and this truth keeps us humble, vulnerable, and open to possibilities. Not knowing situates us at the edge of discovery, especially when we are in the uncharted waters of the underworld. And finally, letting go, rooted in the fundamental truth of impermanence. Each of us is preparing for our own disappearance, as well as witnessing the constantly shifting world. We are reminded of the continual process of change. Letting go of control, outcomes, and certainty softens the space between us and all the others with whom we share this shimmering world. Each of these disciplines helps us to cultivate our presence in the underworld of the long dark. I have spent the last 4 decades tracking the movements of soul, most especially through the layers of grief. In my practice as a psychotherapist and in many workshops, I have seen the wide range of sorrows we carry in our hearts, from early traumas, deaths, divorces, suicides of beloved family or friends, addictions, illnesses, and more. The size of the cloth has become painfully apparent.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?